Life is a journey. It's not so much to a destination, but a transformation. You know, looking back, doesn't it sometimes feel like our richest times come right in the midst of our hardest? But God made us to live in community, to laugh and cry, to hurt and celebrate with each other, no matter what we're going through. And transformation is tough. And we don't always end up where we think we will. But we have to remember that even when we struggle to believe in Him, He always believes in us. He fills our life with purpose and passion if we just let Him. And you know, the best part of the journey is that the God of the universe sometimes allows us to play a part in changing the world. Isn't that a trip?
So sweet.
Hey, you want to click on the light for me, brother? Thank you, sir. That is a quote. That is the ending to one of my favorite movies, and it is quite possibly my favorite movie quote of all time. I just love it because I think it is so dead right on with virtually everything, and it really speaks to this moment for me right now. God works in our darkest times. God works when we're troubled, and we really need to seek Him out, and we need to find Him, and we need to trust Him. That's when He works. But ultimately, God put us together. God created us to be together, to be for each other, and that's the deal. And then through the whole course, through the whole process, His plan, keep in mind, we're talking about the God of the creator of the universe. The most powerful thing we could possibly imagine, the God who could do anything, right? And He gives each one of us an opportunity to do a little bit of His work. How cool is that? God could have just said, boom, done, right the way I want it, finished. But that's not how He does it. He lets us share in a little piece of it. And so for you guys, that's kind of how I feel. I've done this for 6 years. And I think a lot of you probably know my story, and this wasn't what I grew up wanting to be or what I thought I would ever be. And God had a different, much different, and much better plan. And I wasn't always on that plan. In fact, a lot of times I was on the Doug plan and doing the Doug things, and the Doug things didn't always work out quite as well as the God plan and the God things worked out. But He called me here, and He changed my life, sitting right back there, actually about a row behind Haley, and everything changed for me. And I went from a guy who, God was something that I was pretty sure existed, but I had zero relationship with, to a guy who was absolutely adamant that I wanted to know everything I could and get as close and learn as much as I could about God and figure this all out. And I'm still figuring it out. I will continue to figure it out for the rest of my life until He completely restores me at some point in heaven. That's just the way it goes. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't go well. Sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's good. And I know that I have said this in the past, and I will continue to say it because it's what I believe to be true. And I know there may be some people that maybe disagree with me, but hear me out on this. You oftentimes hear, when something bad happens, everything happens for a reason. I don't believe that's true. I don't believe that everything happens for a reason. And as I read through Scripture, I was questioned on this the other day. Somebody kind of said, I think you're wrong on that. And so I re-examined Scripture again, because that's what you do. When you want to grow and you want to know the truth, don't ever settle. The Bible says to question everything. That includes I need to question myself sometimes. And so I re-examined and I looked, and they pointed me to a Scripture in the Old Testament, which I read. And then I studied that. And I get where they saw. But as I read through the whole Scripture, and I've told you guys this before, when you look at the Bible, when you pull out a piece of the Bible, when you take one verse and you examine that, don't eat it like an orange. When you eat an orange, you pull out one slice and you eat one slice, right? Examine it like you eat an apple. when you eat an apple, you usually just eat the whole thing. Tyler is awesome. That dude eats 27 apples a day. I'm not even kidding. All right, I might be a little exaggerated. He will walk to the refrigerator, he'll reach in, he'll grab an apple, and he'll just start chomping down. He eats the apple. And that's how we want to examine Scripture. That's how we want to look at the Bible. Right? When we pull out a piece of Scripture, we want to see not only, the context that it's in, but does it fit in the context of the Bible? And so back to my original point that I don't believe everything happens for a reason. And Scripture is part of that. But as I look at what Scripture says and who Scripture says God is and that He loves us, and I read the story of the fallen world that we live in, and how our choices created the situation that we're in, I can't believe, that there are things that happen that God does for a reason. Now, that isn't to say that some things don't happen for a reason, because there is a reason. But the reason isn't always because God had a really good plan on how to use it. But what does happen is God does have a good plan how to use things that happen that are bad. Right? God has the ability to use bad things for good. And his Scripture says He can use all things for good for those who love Him. Even the worst things that happen, God can use for good. But it still doesn't mean that they happen for a reason, because doggone it, sometimes bad things just happen. There is sin in this world. And sometimes that's where we're at. And this is a tough time for me. And I've talked to many, or most all of you, and I know that it's a tough time for you guys too. But here's what I know, all right? I know that God is in control. I know that He knows everything that's going to happen. I know that God knew, 15 years ago when I had no idea that I would even be in a church, God knew that I would have an opportunity to be a part of your guys' lives and be an opportunity to share with you and just be a small piece of that. But He also knew that this moment was going to come, and it was going to end, and it was going to hurt. It was going to suck. Tyler's not in here, right? Because he would tell me those are bad words. He knew this was going to happen. And I can tell you there have been God moments that has happened since this happened. And God is still working. He will always be working, even when it seems like He's a long, long ways from the situation, because it's dark and it hurts and it's painful, right? You guys are all going to experience those at some point. And I've talked to, I don't even know how many people in the last few days. I was notified Friday morning of that the church was going to go in a different direction. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't probably handle it really well, and I'm still not handling it really well. Because it sucks. Thank you. And I don't like it. But there are lots of things that happen that I don't like. And all I can do is trust God, get on my knees and pray, and ask Him for His guidance. Where does He want me next? What does He want me to do? Maybe I've done all I can do here. Maybe you guys need something different. I don't know what He has planned. I don't know what's in store. But I know that I trust Him completely. And we have to do that. If we don't have that, we're in big trouble. If I did not trust God in this whole situation, I probably would have done something really stupid by now. If I look back when I was younger and I had zero relationship with God, I would have handled things a lot different. But I think when you trust yourself to Jesus and you commit to following Him and living how He taught and doing things the right way, which is what He says, we want to live like Jesus lived. If we're going to do that, then when difficulty happens, when trouble happens, when we get bumped or we get punched or we get knocked down, when something spills out, it should be Jesus. That's sometimes a really hard thing to do. But I want to encourage you guys in this. And I hope that through all of this, that I have said up here hundreds of times, maybe more, that saying you're a Christian, saying those words, saying those things does not necessarily make you a Christian. And when you say those things and you go out here into the real world and somebody bumps you over and knocks you down and hate and anger and bitterness spills out, that says, I'm not a Christian. And so that's not what I want anybody to see. Doesn't mean I'm not feeling those things. To some extent, maybe to a larger extent than I want to admit. But ultimately, I want people to see Jesus in everything that I do, in the good things, in the bad things. You know, when all of that stuff happens to me, right or wrong, justified or unjustified, got to reflect Jesus. How do I do that? I think, and this was going to be our how we were going to finish out the year, and so I still want to lay that out to you guys. Okay, and I don't know what's going to happen, but for the rest of the year, we were going to talk about finishing each day, finishing the day one step closer to Jesus. And so what that means is, I'll share a little story. I was in 5th grade, I think it was 5th grade. Pretty sure it was 5th grade because I don't remember hardly anything from 6th grade, which is really weird. I must have had a bad year or something. But I was in 5th grade, and me and another student had gotten sent to the principal's office. I don't think we got in trouble, but we might have been. I don't know. Why else do you go to the principal's office? I'm not sure. But we got sent to the principal's office, and then we were working our way back to the classroom. And we came out of the principal's office like, man, I really don't want to go back to class. Anybody ever been there? Right on. So we're like, okay, we had this plan. We divided this plan. Grant really doesn't want to be there. So we had this plan, like, okay, here's what we're going to do, right? All the way back. And we had this big, long hallway. So all the way back, what we're going to do is we're going to take 2 steps forward and then 1 step back. 2 steps forward and 1 step back. 2 steps forward and 1 step back. And we did that the entire length of the hall, and it probably took us 3 times as long to get there. And guys, I'll be honest with you. Sometimes that's a lot how my Christian walk looks, right? 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Sometimes it's 1 step forward, 3 steps back, right? Sometimes it's 27 steps forward and only 1 step back. And sometimes it's about 50 steps in the wrong direction, right? That's how it is. It's what it is. And my goal for this year, and I hope for you guys, is as I was thinking of New Year's resolutions, and I'm terrible at making them. I don't think I've ever completed a New Year's resolution in my life. Unless I made a New Year's resolution not to make a that doesn't even work, does it? Because I still made one. My goal is to, at the end of each and every day, finish 1 step closer to Jesus, right? I don't care if I had a rough day and I messed up and I got off track and I took 12 steps in the wrong direction. Man, at the end of the day, all I want is to be at least 1 step closer. And guys, if we are 1 step closer every day, we're gaining ground. We're headed in the right direction. Sometimes it's really hard to do because, you know, the songwriter says that he, the one living inside of us is greater than the one living in the world. And essentially what that means is that with Christ in us, Philippians 4:13, most of you guys know, says that I can do anything through Christ who strengthens me. That doesn't mean I can dunk a basketball because I'm 5'6" and I can't jump and I'm white. I can't dunk a basketball. But what that means is with Christ in me, I can handle any adversity. I can handle any situation, and I can maintain my focus on Jesus. I can overcome. That's what that means, right? So when those things happen, I want you to realize that that power in you, Jesus inside of you, is far stronger than anything in this world that's going to knock you down, knock you back, and put you off track. Okay? That is so important to remember because you know what? Life is not easy. It's not. And some people have this disillusion that when we come to trust Christ and we believe in Him and we're working hard for Him, that everything is going to get better and it's going to be easy. The fact of the matter is, a lot of times it gets harder. It's worse. It's more difficult. It's going to happen. Those things are going to happen. We're going to have bad days. We're going to have bad things that happen. Okay? And I don't believe that all bad things happen for a reason. I don't believe that God intentionally gives 9-year-old kids cancer, which leads to their death, for a reason. But I believe that because there is sin in this world that has led to cancer, that has led to death, that God will take those situations and do good if we trust Him with those. If we work for Him. And so my last message for you guys is, from here on out, each and every day, man, for the rest of your lives, finish the day one step closer to Jesus.